This video is part of a webinar series on Hindudvesha, an educational series to explore and expose systemic Hindu phobia. You might be wondering why we've been dredging this old history on the roots of Hindudvesha. The reason is we are constantly being asked why Hindus are the objects of this hateful narrative in this world, whereas other minority communities are not. And we felt it is important for us to remind ourselves how it got started and how it got translated into the modern day experience, which basically is really a transformation of the same narrative into today's world. So I have a leading question here. How do you tame an elephant? I mean, you see this elephant being tied to a very tiny rope to a very flimsy stake. Obviously, the only way you can control this big beast is by messing up with his mind, by making him believe somehow that he is powerless, he has no options, he's no better than a sheep. And that is, I think, what has happened to Hindu community at large. So, Hindu mind could not have been an easy target for subjugation. When you look at the level of education that actually existed in India, and this is coming actually from British colonial records, because a lot of Indians and Hindus don't tend to believe what our own statistics. So I thought we'll dredge up actual British colonial records. They state the mass education in early 1800s was actually more advanced and widespread in India than in England, on a number of axes: number of schools, number of students, duration in school, quality of teachers, and so on and so forth. And here is actually a report that you can Google for yourself, that from 1838, that talks about how many schools existed in just the two states, Bengal and Bihar, in 1830s. Over 100,000 schools. Okay, so here's a highly educated population, sophisticated mind with a very sophisticated social structure. It must have been difficult, a very monumental task for them to actually subjugate our minds. But obviously it did happen. They did manage to subjugate us. They did manage to subjugate our minds. This circular attack that kept on year after year after year with the full force of colonial government behind it, did manage to accomplish its objective, which was the pervasive colonization of our minds. And the impact on Hindu society is nothing but inferiority complex, alienation from our traditions, whether it's in terms of food habits, whether it's in dress, whether it's how we speak to each other, social norms. It affected all that. And of course, we became fascinated with colonizers' lifestyle and values. We want to adopt them, we want to shed ours. And then emergence of the special class of people who were actually colonized, but they acted like colonizers. They call themselves, I guess many of us are part of that, modern, liberal, secular, global citizen, Hindus in name only, or spiritual but not religious, and so on and so forth. Now, this colonial narrative continues to live beyond the colonial era into the modern day, as Professor Kundan Singh has pointed out, and that is the genesis of modern day attitudes towards Hindus or Hindudvesha. However, that said, we are able to break the shackles of this colonized mind, at least in parts, at least some of us, and they become shining examples for us. I'm showing here 3 examples from the recent history. Lieutenant Colonel Kamaljeet Singh Khalsi, he fought very hard against the US Army to let him serve in the US Army while wearing his full Sikh gear, turban and full beard. He ultimately won, and he's currently proudly serving in the medical corps. Dr. Swati Mohan has been talked about in the chat room quite a bit. I kind of feel bad for her, because her real accomplishment is actually landing the rover on Mars. But unfortunately, he's trending more for the fact that she is wearing a Hindu symbol in professional workspace, which is great as well. But let's also cheer her for the fact that she accomplished a major engineering feat. I came across Roma Gujarati. I held a conference in Boston in 2019. She was one of my panelists, and she gave a talk on her lifestyle choices. And she told the audience that she, very early on, she decided to wear bindi every day to school, in spite of getting a lot of bad looks from her friends and criticism. And now she's in Boston College of Law, and she continues to follow that. And I really like the quote, very pithy quote she made. She said, simply put, I look different because I am different, and why should I be ashamed of that? I think we can give 3 cheers to these shining examples, who are able to stand up, take a stand, and show their identity in professional workspaces. So, just sharing some personal thoughts on how we might be able to counter Hindudvesha. This, first of all, let me point out that no one has a silver bullet. This is not something that we can make a list of, make a playbook or a list of 10 things we could do and make it disappear. The other thing is, last time we actually got a question from someone saying, yes, we know Hindudvesha exists, so what is being done about it? Now that really, got my back up because, it is not something that you can outsource to someone else. The fight has to be personal. Everyone has to be a foot soldier in this fight. Okay, so that's one thing. We have to ditch once and for all the idea that this is someone else's fight. We can give it to this organization or that organization to fight. Everyone has to be part of this, this struggle. The other thing is you really can't fight. I can tell you, go write to go write letters to editors of newspapers, do this and that. But unless we educate ourselves on some basic facts, we really can't do it. We just emotions alone are not going to win this war. This has to be won with arguments. Truth is on our side, but we need to know what the truth is. We need to know some relevant historical facts. We need to know some of the key players and what they said. We can achieve this through webinars like this. There are a number of beautiful courses that HUA offers, the Hindu University of America offers, that can give you a good perspective on these issues. Of course, there's always self-study, but we have to educate ourselves. We have to arm ourselves with some basic facts before we can go out in the public square and put our views in a cogent fashion. The other point I like to make is taking a page from the 3 examples I shared in the last page. Let's integrate at least one Hindu symbol into our public life. And I'm suggesting Om. Now, just wearing Om around your neck is not going to make Hindudvesha disappear, but it creates a coherence in the Hindu community. You identify yourself as a soldier in this fight. And it creates a dialogue. If cross or Star of David and all these other symbols, including hijab, can be accepted in the workplace, why not Om? Finally, we have a number of projects. I think monitoring the news media and various other communication channels, and then writing reports on them on a quarterly or monthly, yearly basis, is a great way to daylight the kind of Hindudvesha that these organizations are practicing. You can volunteer through the chat room. We'll connect with you. On April 13, 1699, Guru Gobind Singh stood up in front of large audience and said he needs people who would want to sacrifice themselves for saving the dharma. And he got 5 volunteers. Those 5 volunteers ultimately, they changed the course of history in India. If we could get 5 volunteers here who could join us in some of the projects that we have, I think we would be miles ahead.